Hi, so I am currently in the middle of studying, well, trying to study, let's be honest, not going so hot. I'm still recovering from being sick, which you've probably heard in my past two videos with my voiceovers. Didn't help that I got soaked today walking home. But I'm here to talk about how my conceptualization of Scotland has changed since I've been here and since I've taken my course, which I have an exam for tomorrow. Thought I would unpick my answer, as the Brits say. Unpick. I think that's hilarious. Unpick. Let's unpick this. Just analyze it. Just say analyze. So basically, I understand Scotland to be much more complex. I think this is true for anywhere you visit. You shatter the illusions and you're able to see it for yourself. So you're not just like looking at pictures online or being like, oh, Scotland in my mind is beautiful and like the pastoral image that romanticized, idealized, Caliard vision that was mainly propagated by Sir Walter Scott and his writings. So Scottish culture, I think, is something I took for granted. Sure, accepted that bagpipes are a part of it, the tartan, plaid, just, I guess, tourist ideas, I mean, Nessie, etc. And for me, it was very important to learn how the Royal Mile feeds into the stereotypes willingly, happily, to turn a profit. And it was cool to read David Macrone's Scotland, the brand, talks about how that image is created and serves certain ends, and just how that image is for the world and not really for Scotland, that once you visit Scotland and live in Scotland, it's the everyday that you will associate with Scotland. Furthermore, heritage is to thank and blame, because certain heritage efforts, so the preservation and the upkeep of sites or historical monuments, whatever, is good in a way, because yeah, it's something you don't necessarily want to tear down, which is all designed and curated to show Scotland to the world. So if you come, you visit, it's actually designed that each floor is a different time period for Scotland, the very top being more contemporary Scottish life. Then that is what I understand, deem, quite representative, comprehensive, meant to be as accurate as possible, which is good, because that's what any nation needs. If nation or nationhood and national identity, you call that important, which I'd say Scotland does, and Scotland's been debating this for a long time, but the Scottish culture debates kind of started in the 1960s, thanks to Tom Nairn and his opposing views. So with David Macrone, essentially they were kind of the two butting heads at the time. In 1964, there was an exchange of letters that was published in the Scotsman, which is the newspaper here in Scotland, and is between Hamish Henderson and Hugh McDermott, who are both sort of social commentators. Hamish Henderson's more of like folklore storyteller, a revivalist. That's kind of his claim to fame. And they actually had an exchange about what Scottish culture is. Hugh McDermott was very like literary renaissance. We need to, we can't settle for mediocrity. We need to be better. Tied with national identity, like being able to point out the differences, but clearly you can find commonalities and difference, and how you identify you should actually look at on a local level rather than national, because the idea of a nation is, I forget who wrote this, oh shoot, but essentially it's an imagined community. It's not real. There is no like boundary. The course highlighted Gaelic language and how the learning of it and the promotion of its teaching still present day 2014 is highly important, because Gaelic actually has a lot of hostile perceptions, because it used to be associated with backwardness, barbarianism, and just kind of seen as like a Highland thing. So the Education Act of insert year here eradicated, like no Gaelic would be taught. That is the basis of the oral tradition that has carried on, and you can see in many other community traditions and customs, practices such as the mod, which happens I was actually here for it. I forget which week, but it happens every autumn, and that brings together people from all sorts of parts of Scotland to celebrate in singing and the dancing, creating what is considered a quite controversial celebration of Gaelic culture. I think what I've learned is that I've been fed false images of Scotland. Even within Scotland, there's fractures of what is Scotland. I've accepted that it's complex, and in many ways you can imagine Scotland as any other nation, like the US or England, and the fact that it is part of sort of the globalized modern industrial world. Any of the images that we see are constructed to create the narrative that you want to come visit, that there is something unique about Scotland that you won't find anywhere else, and that's why you have to come and spend lots of money and experience the authentic culture. I had never watched Braveheart before coming, but I think now I never have to or ever will. I don't care for that Hollywood interpretation of Scottish culture. I could watch it and laugh, as I'm sure many Scottish people do. I mean, goodness knows that so many things have been appropriated, culturally appropriated. It does not affect just one culture, for sure. Cultural appropriation happens all the time, every day, everywhere. Which is sad. Let's end cultural appropriation. Cool? Cool. Wish me luck.